Hello lovely beaders. Welcome back to my channel. The pendant I am making today has a bit of history for me. I first designed and beaded one like this way back in 2018. I actually still have that original piece which I kept for myself, and I'll show it to you a bit later in the video. It's held up beautifully over the years and I still wear it sometimes. I decided it was finally time to share this pattern, mainly because it has that wonderful quality of looking quite intricate, but actually being surprisingly simple and enjoyable to make. For today's tutorial, I'm using one of my handmade resin cabochons. But this design is versatile. It also works perfectly with a standard Rivoli. In fact, the original 2018 one was made with a Rivoli. So pick your colors and come bead with me. Here's that original pendant I mentioned, the one I beaded back in 2018. See how beautiful it still looks after all this time? Every project needs a starting point, like a color or a key bead. And this pendant's whole color scheme actually started with the cabochon I chose. Because in today's version, I want to use a resin cabochon instead of a Rivoli. As you can see, I still have quite a few of these resin cabochons. I need a 16mm one for this design. Let's sort through these a bit. The larger ones can definitely go back into the box. I will need to come up with more designs for them so they don't just sit in my box, right? And these two look about the right size. They are the potential 16mm candidates. But it's not just about the diameter. The thickness of the cabochon is also important for this bezel. So I'll choose one of these slimmer 16mm cabochons for my pendant today. And I decided to go with the blue, which you probably guessed since I showed the finished pendant at the beginning. But I still wanted to include this selection process, because choosing the right materials and colors is a big part of the beading journey. Even when the pattern is set, picking out the perfect combination takes time and is part of the fun, right? This pendant is made with 6 peyote triangles. But they a little bit modified triangles, so pay attention. Start with 3 pieces of delica beads in color A. Put a double knot to form a circle with the beads. And step out from the first delica bead. String 2 pieces of delica in color A and go through the next delica from the starting circle. Repeat by stringing again the 2 delica beads and go through the next bead from the starting circle. And again, string the 2 delica beads and go through the first bead from your starting circle and the first bead strung in this row. This will be your step up for your next row. String 2 pieces of delica in color A on the corner. And string 1 piece of delica in color B between the 2 corners. Repeat around. But don't forget to step up for the next row by going through 2 beads from the first corner. String 2 pieces of delica in color A on the corners. And make the sides with peyote stitch with delica in color B. Don't forget when you string the last bead to step up for the next row. String the corners as usual. On the side make the peyote stitch, but now string the first and the last bead in color B and the middle bead in color A. Repeat around. With the last bead on this row, don't forget the step-up part. String 2 pieces of delica in color A on the corners. And follow the color scheme on the side. First string a delica in color B. Then string delica in color A and another color A. And the last delica in this side is a color B delica. And of course you need to repeat around. You'll notice from time to time that I adjust the corner beads immediately after adding them. This is really key for good tight tension. If a bead is left crooked now, that corner tends to loosen up in the next row. Step up for the next row. Start the new row. String 2 delica in color A on the corners. And skip the first gap from the side by going down in the next bead from the corner and up in the first bead from the side. String 1 color A delica. In the middle a color B delica. And a color A delica. Skip the last gap by going through the beads to reach the top of the corner. In conclusion, we string this row in the same way as the previous ones, only we skip the first and the last gaps on the sides. Repeat around. Don't forget to step up for the next row. This row will be the last row for this triangle. String 1 delica in color C on the corner. And go through all the beads until you reach the first delica in color A from the first side of the triangle. String a color B delica on each side of the middle bead from this side of the triangle. Then go through all the beads to reach the next corner. String a color C delica on the corner. And now I need to reach the last corner. So I need to go through all the beads between the two corners. It doesn't matter which way you go, just use the already used pathways to hide the thread. I am going through the corner beads, but you can choose the side beads if that is easier for you. String the color C delica on the last corner. I want to get rid of my tail, so I weave it in and cut it. For this first triangle, don't finish off or cut your working thread. Just set it aside for now and make a second identical triangle just like this one. I made my second triangle off camera and now I will show you how to join them together. I need to lead my thread to the side where I have my extra row. You need to step out from the first bead from the last row. This is a color B delica. I'll show you this step zoomed in to get a better look what I am doing. But because this step is quite fiddly, it will be hard to show you without moving a lot. I need to find the correct side of both triangles. I need to pull together the middle part of the two triangles. So I am exiting from the color B delica from my second triangle and I will go through the middle delica from the first triangle then back to the second color B delica from my second triangle. The middle part is pulled together but we need to secure the two sides too. So I go through the color A delica and turn back in the other triangle's color A delica. And I am going through the beads to reach the other side and secure the beads from that side too. and the joining is finished. But there's one final bead to add. Every triangle needs an extra bead that will help make the back of the bezel. Now that the triangles are joined together, it's easier for me to show you where to put that last bead. You can see a color bead delica on one corner line of the left triangle. I need to add a delica to the same spot on the second triangle. Of course you will need to add it to your first triangle too. That's why I said to don't cut your thread at the first triangle. I need to lead my thread to that corner on my second triangle. I need to exit from the third corner bead. You want to be stitching from the inside towards the outside of the triangle. Now I am at the right spot. String a color bead delica and turn back in the second corner bead from the third row. And now I can finish my thread and cut it. As I often recommend for peyote, you can securely finish the thread without knots. Just weave the thread back and forth through the beading following the peyote path. Changing direction 3 or more times through plenty of beads will make your beadwork very secure and unlikely to unravel. I will need to make 4 more triangles to complete the pendant. I will make my next triangles off camera, but I will be back with the joining parts. I've just finished beading the third triangle. Now while I lead my thread over to the side where I'll eventually join it to the other triangles, I can also add that extra bead we will need for the bezel. So, first I will lead my thread to the third bead from the corner line. I am exiting from the third corner bead. I pick up a delica in color B and go through the second corner bead. And I lead my thread to the bead where I can start the joining process. Now I can start joining together the triangles. I make the joining the same way I did the first time. I am exiting from a color B delica. I go through the other triangle's middle delica and back in the second delica in color B from the third triangle. Then I sew together the side beads from both sides of the joining. And I have the half of the pendant finished. I need 3 more triangles. Here is my 4th triangle. I am just joining it with the already joined triangles. And somehow I missed filming joining the 5th triangle, so we're jumping right ahead to the final one. But now we need to join the 6th triangle with 2 sides. One to the 5th triangle and one back to the 1st. Essentially, this triangle will close the entire pendant. One side is done. And now I need to lead my thread to the other side. Since we have a moment, I'd like to ask for your support. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. I share all my knowledge here for free, but to keep creating valuable content, your support is essential. Every like, comment, and share helps the channel grow and reach more people. If you'd like to go a step further, you can buy me a coffee, or check out my tutorials and jewelry pieces. The links are in the description. Thank you so much for helping me keep this channel going. The next step is to make the bezel for the cabochon. So I need to lead my thread to the extra bead strung in the middle of the corner line. And I need to step out from that bead. string 7 pieces of delica beads. I've used 2 colors here, making the middle bead different to easily spot it for the next row, but feel free to use just 1 color if you prefer. Go through the extra bead from the next triangle and repeat around. Before we reach the next and final row of the bezel, I need to talk about something important. You'll need to modify the last row slightly if you use a Rivoli instead of the flat back cabochon. Rivolis have that pointed back, and because of that shape, the Rivoli version actually requires more beads in the final row to make the Rivoli sit correctly and secure in the bezel. However, for the flat back cabochon like the one I'm using, fewer beads in the final step will actually create a tighter and flatter finish on the back. Lead your thread to the middle bead from the first delica unit. This is where it comes in handy if your middle bead is a different color. We need to put the cabochon inside, though it will not be secured yet. But it needs to be inside because our final row secures the cabochon by covering its edge. String 2 pieces of delica beads between the middle delicas from the previous row. If you work with Rivoli, you will need 3 delicas for this row. Try to pull this last row very tight. Make sure you pull the thread tight after every single unit you add. This helps the new beads sit nicely over the edge of the cabochon and hold it down well. It's important to keep pulling tight as you go. If you only pull very hard at the end of the row, it's often too late. The first beads you added might stay loose, and you could even make the row before this one loose too. And the bezel is finished. The cabochon stays safely inside. But you need to reinforce the last row. Go through the beads at least once more. And now I need to lead my thread to an outer side of a triangle to make a hanger for this pendant. Just go through the beads from the bezel to reach the extra beads strung on a corner line. And go through the beads from the triangle, but try not to break any of them. While I lead the thread to the right spot, let's quickly talk about the pendant bail. For this design, it's a pretty simple peyote strip bail, but I made it 5 beads wide, which is an odd count. That just means the turn at the end of every second row is a little tricky. But don't worry. I have shown this odd count turn in other videos, and I'll try to guide you through it when we get to that part. I am at the right spot. I am stepping out from a color A delica from the side of a triangle. Like I told you, this will be a 5 bead wide strip, so the 5 beads from the middle will be our foundation for it. I string color B delica in this row. This turning is a simple turning, and I am stringing color A on the first spot. In the middle I string color B delica. And now I will have the hard turning. I string a color A delica and I am turning back in the last delica from the triangle. Adjust the bead to sit in the right position and go through the second delica from the row before that. Turn back in the delica standing on top of the delica where you are exiting and the delica from the last row from the triangle. And now you can go through the last bead strung in the last row. You will be in the right position to start another simple peyote row. I will string only color A delicas for the next 2 rows, because I finished the diamond shape with color B delica. Like you see, this is the simple turn. But with this last bead I don't have another delica to go through, so I will need to turn back in the last delica from the last row, to make the odd count peyote turn like I showed you just now. And now you are in position to start a new peyote row. Continue beading this strip until it's long enough for your necklace. For my necklace, I need the strip to be about 8 edge beads long on each side. I'll be back to show you how to stitch the ends together to form the bail. I made my strip long enough. It has 3 diamond shapes and 8 side beads on each side. Now I need to zip the end of this strip together with the last row of the triangle. I need to connect the end of the strip back to the triangle to make the bail. I'm zipping the end to the row of beads on the triangle that I used to make my strip's first row. You could potentially choose the row just above or below this one, depending on what length you want for your bail. The key is simply creating a secure loop large enough for your necklace. Secure the two side beads too. But before I go any further, I need to check if my necklace will go through this loop. If not, I need to undo the zipping. You see, it fits quite snugly, which is good. It means the pendant will hang securely without moving around too much. So I secure the bail and I will weave in the thread before I cut it. This was a bit of a longer tutorial with several steps involved. I truly hope you enjoyed beading along with me and feel inspired to try making one yourself. Okay, let's gently slide the necklace through my new beaded bail. It is really tight. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I wasn't sure about combining the white, blue, and pink at first. I thought the contrast might be too strong. But seeing it all together now, I actually really love how these colors pop. What do you think of this combo? Or did you like the color combination of the original pendant better? Plus, I made a different kind of bail for my older pendant back then, which can also give it a whole different look. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in a separate tutorial specifically for this older bail design. If enough people would like to see it, I'll definitely add it to my list. And that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for hanging out with me. See you next week.